Well, then what about early in the 70s again, when you won all the readers' polls in the magazines as the best guitarist in the world and that? Is that sort of thing where you cringe more than you feel flattered by it, do you think?
Well, you have to be absolutely honest. I mean, it's a good buzz to think that a lot of fans think of you and you get in the polls somewhere. But against that, then after you've been in the polls for the first year or two, it's every poster that, every gig you do, the promoters immediately put, the greatest guitarist in the world playing next Tuesday, which is ridiculous. I mean, like Segovia maybe was the closest to it, but I mean, you can't. Then it becomes like the Leopardstown Chase. You know what I mean? Who's the top? It's polls of any kind. I mean, they're only some kind of vague popularity thing. They've nothing to do with. Like you couldn't spend your life looking at every poll that comes out because you go crazy,
Yeah, like Alvin Lee, where are you now?
Well, I hope he's happy. I mean, that's the main thing. Yeah.
10 years after. All right, well, I'm going to play this one here, which is again from the Defender album, and if I had this lined up properly, this should be Smear Campaign. And just I might as well mention the dates again. It's the next 4 nights at the Olympia Theatre in Dublin, Rory Gallagher. Then next Monday, Belfast. Wednesday of next week, Limerick. Friday of next week, Galway. And Cork on next Sunday week. It is a long time since you've played here, actually. I mean, like leaving out the Cork thing for the TV recently and also Self-Aid. It must be 4 or 5 years, is it?
Yes, indeed.
Is that long, is it?
Yeah, it's frightening.
That's pretty unusual, because I mean, there was a time there when it was the annual Rory concerts at Christmas and all that.
Yeah.
Any reason for it? Because, I mean, like, it wasn't as though you were off the road completely.
No, indeed not, but just going, I mean, it's the recording, and then we were in the States for 2 trips, and we were all over strange places like Hungary, Yugoslavia, Scandinavia, all kinds of bits and pieces. But, the sad fact is we kept saying, we'll do the Irish tour when the album is out. And, of course, given the long stretch of time getting the album sorted out, just delayed. The next thing you knew, it was 5 years, which is a shame,
Yeah.
But there you are.
Because you say you had that Torch album and that you've also recorded 20 tracks for Defender. Now you get 12 tracks altogether on Defender, 10 on the album, 12 on the CD, and the extra 2 are free with the album and a single. Now, of those 12, I mean, was that 20 you made for just Defender, in other words? In other words, are you writing songs all the time? You've got so many you can afford to just cop out a whole album? More
or less. A lot of songs go by the wayside that, come to life again, you because you play them too fast or use the wrong key. Like some songs have to go away and fester. I mean, Philby would be an example of that. That was recorded, for instance, like in and around, we say, the Calling Card album, and then it was left alone for 2 years, and then it all came together on the Top Priority album. So it doesn't mean that it's not valid, but a lot of good songs sometimes take a couple of years to grow,
Yeah. Do you know that thing about like black blues musicians who have as much credibility as they ever had when they're 60 and 70 and more? Do you think that with the way you've done things, it's helped with the fact that in 20 years' time Rory Gallagher will still be doing the same thing and it'll be complete credibility because of that? As opposed to some bands who will just have to stop at a certain age because it'll just look even more ridiculous than it does with some of them at the moment.
Well, I don't know. It's I can't go on sort of saying things that are like big lofty statements that I'm more credible than somebody else or whatever. It's just that for my own hobby, when I'm 60 odd or whatever it is, I'll be playing blues material at home and I'll still be enjoying it just like a traditional musician would, which is a different thing from playing with a band and doing gigs and all that. It's just it's just an interest for me, like flamenco music or something.
Yeah.
But I think the blues, what makes it more important than some music is that it gets right into your veins as a kind of, as a lifestyle and as a mind, as a little beacon in your life,
Yeah.
God almighty, that's very profound, isn't it?
Well, you were down home in Cork last night and you say you were listening to the programme and you heard me playing a new one from George Thorogood. Well, I mean, from a new album, certainly not a new song, Smokestack Lightning. What do you think of him, like who covers all his albums with so many of the blues classics? He doesn't seem to necessarily write an awful lot himself.
No, I read an article and he said that all the great songs have been written, which gets him out of all scrapes. I think on one album he did write 1 or 2 things, but I think he's nifty. He's a good guitar sound and he performs well, but I wouldn't like to be just covering numbers. John Hammond is another blues artist who, you know, I admire. But it's important to try and develop outside just being an interpreter of the blues, put it that way. You know?
Yeah. Well, then one last thing is this, and that is that, do you think that down through the years, in particular, I would say around the time of the Juice album, Blueprint, Tattoo, and those albums, do you think that in many ways a lot of the songs in those albums were overlooked? That people overlooked the fact that Rory Gallagher writes great rock songs? And you can be as modest as you like.
Well, I'd like to think some of them were overlooked, certainly. I mean, because I put a lot of effort in them, and some of them stand up quite well today.
Yeah.
But that's the luck of the draw, you know.
The luck of the Irish. Okay, well, listen, Rory, thanks very much indeed for dropping in again. It was great to have you back, and the best of luck in with the Irish tour over the next few days. The Olympia in Dublin until Saturday, and then Belfast, Limerick, Galway, and Cork all next week. And I hope you have a very good time on stage, and come back to us next time as well.
Well, indeed.
And in 20 years' time, I want to read your biography as well, just like Chuck Berry. Cause you'll be the same age as he is now in 20 years.
I won't actually. That's.
Wait a second.
It's a mistake.
Let's get this one right?
It's all 60s.
Were you not born in the beginning of March 1948? No.
Let's put it this way: I won't be 62 in 20 years' time, contrary to a certain.
Well, in 22 years' time, yeah, I saw Gay Byrne last Friday night saying that to you. All right.
I don't know where he got his mathematics, but that's okay. You know, I mean, I might be 92. Who knows? You know.
Yeah, all right, fair enough. So it won't be the same sort of Chuck Berry sort of thing. There won't be any great sort of backstage stories, no.
Oh, not as crazy as his stories, but it might be fun at that stage though, because you know, if you've been around a few places and met a few people and have a little story to tell, it could be interesting if you don't take it too seriously. But I mean, that's probably what Chuck wanted, just a light-hearted book.
That's what he gave us. Okay, well, Rory, thanks very much indeed, and the best of luck to yourself and Brendan and Jerry as well.